One of the biggest questions that we get asked is, do we regret selling any of our goats over the years? We've had a lot of babies that we've raised up, that we've sold, and we've had a lot of adults that we've parted with. So today we're gonna go over where they all are now, how they're doing, and if we regret selling any of them. Some of the new owners are okay with me sharing their social media and some aren't. So I'm gonna put in the description a link to all the ones that do want to be shared, and you can follow along on their different journeys. Just be sure to be nice to everybody. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is gonna be the cutest throwback we've ever done. In 2019, little Hope was born to Tilly. So Tilly had Hope and Fern. Unfortunately, Hope had a little bit of trouble walking at birth, and Tilly promptly rejected her. It was so sad to watch. We tried, but Tilly just wasn't interested in taking care of her. So we moved on to Doris, who was just happening to give birth the very next day. We slipped little Hope in there, threw a little bit of amniotic fluid on her, and at first, Doris did nurse her and take care of her, but eventually she rejected her as well. So we had to resort to feeding her on the stand. It was the saddest, most adorable thing. But this is Hope today. Hope lives at our friend's Lumnah Acres in New Hampshire. She's gone on to have kids of her own, and it makes me really happy that she's well taken care of. That same year, Penny gave birth to triplets. If you don't recognize Penny, she was one of the original goats on our farm, and she's the mama to Willow, except Willow wasn't born in this little bunch. These little triplets were named Poppy, Posy, and Oakley. And while we were really tempted at first to keep either Poppy or Posy, we ended up letting them go, and this is what Poppy and Posy look like today. They're super adorable. They're both just pets, and they've never been bred because unfortunately they both developed the leg issue. Unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of Oakley though. That same year in 2019, Luna gave birth to a cute little singleton, Stella. She was probably one of the cutest babies born on our farm. When Stella got older, we bred her and she had twins, Astrid and Apollo. Apollo looked just like her, and Astrid was the cutest little combination of colors. It was about this time that I realized that I had to make a decision whether I wanted to go with mixed breed goats or I wanted to focus on one breed. She also didn't quite have the traits I would look for if I was trying to improve the breed, and so in the end I decided to focus on Nigerian goats only, and we sent Stella and Astrid together to live in California. Stella hasn't had any other kids yet, but Astrid went on to have kids of her own. She had 2 adorable little bucklings, isn't that how it always is? And she was a great mama, so Luna now has great grandchildren. In 2020, Willow gave birth to the cutest little triplets, Winston, Winnie, and Wally. They were so cute, and this was a tough decision because it was right about this time that we realized that Willow had developed the leg issue that her mama also had. I wanted so badly to think that maybe we had bred the leg issue out, so we castrated little Wally and sold him as a pet, and I kept Winnie and Winston to raise up and see how they would develop. Seriously, Winnie was the cutest baby goat. Unfortunately, Winston developed the same leg issue, but Winnie did not. However, after much deliberation and talking to lots of different breeders, I decided to go ahead and spay both Winnie and Willow, effectively ending that line. Since keeping a bunch of pets would limit my ability to really raise and breed Nigerian dwarf goats, we decided to send Winnie and Winston to a trusted farm where I knew they would be taken care of and I wouldn't have to worry about them. This is what they look like today. And they are so loved. They actually live on the same farm as Posy, who was renamed Nymphadora. So they're one big happy aunt and niece and nephew family. And this is Wally. He lives as a pet with a bunch of other goats. He has not developed the leg issue. He's healthy and happy and super cuddly. Also in 2020, Doris gave birth to 4 babies. One was stillborn, but we had Duke, Daisy, and little Delilah. Unfortunately, Delilah had a heart problem and didn't make it past her 2nd week, I think. She was adorable with little moon spots. Ugh. But we still had Duke and Daisy, and they were the most adorable, naughty little twins you could ever have. And today, they live on a farm just really close to us with a cute little family, and they are so loved and spoiled. Later in 2020, Fern gave birth to Fiona and Feline. Fiona had that beautiful chamazé that we all love, and Feline was a light gold. They were so cute, and I was very tempted to keep one of them. But we decided to let them go because I wasn't too sure about the sire we had bred Fern with and if he had the ability to improve her udder. And this is Feline today. She's nice and fluffy. She lives in New York, and she's adorable. Fiona ended up going to California with a cute little family, and she had the cutest babies. Like, look at that baby. Look how cute that baby is. So adorable. Unfortunately, Fiona's udder ended up being really similar to Fern's, but she has great dairy skin and udder texture, so they say she's really easy to milk. Fiona still is really beautiful, and this family actually ended up changing plans to live the RV life for a while, so they had to rehome a lot of their goats. So Fiona now lives on another farm, but she's well taken care of. I decided to group these sisters at the same time because we get a lot of questions about them. Whatever happened to Doris and Mabel? It was a crazy turn of events. So we got Doris and Mabel because we thought that we needed to bring in some, legitimate milking lines, and they both came from that, so I was pretty excited. They were half sisters, really beautiful, and at first they integrated really well into the herd, but as they got more mature, they got really aggressive, both of them. Mabel was just such a bully to Willow, and despite trying to breed her multiple times, she just was such a bully to the bucks that she would never let them breed her. Doris had little bouts of aggression, but as she got older, it got much, much worse, to the point where we felt like we couldn't trust her around any of the other goats. We ended up selling Doris to a friend who only had larger breeds of goats, thinking that that would help keep her from being so aggressive. Unfortunately, she ended up being really aggressive towards them as well, and now she lives on a farm with a little old lady where she is the only goat, and Doris is very, very happy. Even though that seems so strange, most of the time goats need a buddy. Mabel was sold quite a few times, but ended up on a cute little farm where she's had a few different rounds of kids, and so far has done really well. So hopefully she keeps doing good. In 2021, we were about to see a bunch of Zorro kids, and it all started with little Jasper. Hazel gave birth to a singleton, and he was so cute. He had these little markings that looked like fangs. It was adorable. And I really, really liked his body type, but I wasn't sold on Hazel's udder. So for that reason, I didn't keep him as a buck, and he was castrated and sold as a pet. Here is what he looks like today, and he still has those little markings that look like little fangs. Next up was another singleton. Tatum gave birth to little Quill, and he was so adorable. He had that little marking on his back leg. Quill ended up being really good friends with our little Emmett, who was born out of Fern at the time, and so they went together as buddies. They were both castrated, and they live up north where it's nice and cold, so they're little fuzzy goats, and they're best buds. Earlier this year, Olive gave birth to triplets, and there's a story with each of them. Faye ended up being a hermaphrodite. She had sort of a male part sticking out the back end. She was really cute, and I knew she'd make a really fun pet, and she did. She ended up going to a cute little pet farm where she wears this little fancy bow tie and causes lots of chaos. As for little Griffin in that same little batch, he's probably my favorite story because while he was so pretty and he would have been a really flashy buck, he didn't necessarily have the genetics I was looking for. So he ended up going as a pet as well. And today, this is Griffin. He loves costumes. So they have a bin of costumes that they put on him and he loves it. It's his favorite thing. He's the goofiest little guy and he's just adorable. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a hold of Blair's new owner, so I really have no idea how she's doing, but I'm sure she's doing great. Next, Tilly gave birth to little Poe. She actually had Poe and Raven in the same little batch. Poe had a lot of traits that I thought would do really well as a buckling. And since Tilly had earned her milking star and she has good udder shape and texture, I decided to let him go as a buck. So he now resides on a little farm about an hour away from us as a big, strong breeding buck. So it'll be fun to see the kids that he produces and if he helps improve things since he's got Tilly and Zorro genetics. Finally, Fern. Now, Fern was born way back in 2019, but she stayed with us for a really long time. We sent her twin sister Hope to New Hampshire, but we kept Fern, and she had a lot of good things going for her, but she had sort of a horrible teat placement. It made it hard to milk, and it made it hard for us to keep the bacteria count down since the teats would rub up against her legs. Fern ended up giving birth to little Rose, who I was almost set on keeping, but then I decided instead to let go of this line, and so I let Fern and Rose both go as mother and daughter to a new farm. Unfortunately, I don't have a photo of them. The owner just didn't have time to grab a photo for me, so maybe in the future we'll get a nice updated photo. If Rose ever gets bred, maybe we'll get to see that udder. Now, okay, I don't know if I necessarily regret selling them, but there were ones that were a lot harder to sell than others. I think Winnie and Winston are at the top of the list. They were just so sweet and adorable, and I had big plans for them. But I am glad that they're happy at their new home, and staying in contact with their owner makes me feel a lot better. But you kind of have to develop a thick skin when you're breeding goats because you have so many that are born every year and you have to make tough decisions, especially when you're trying to improve the breed like I am now. So I try to find a balance between having the ones that I love just for personality, have the lines and the genetics that I need so that I can make sure that I'm breeding ethically. I keep forgetting to mention this, but we now have a wait list for the baby goats that are soon to be born on the farm. So if you're interested in just a pet or a milking goat or a show quality goat, go ahead and head to our website. I'll put that link in the description, and you can see if you'd like to reserve out of one or more of our pairings. Okay, that's it for today's video. We're gonna get started on projects. We gotta get going. We don't have much time. And as you guys know, we're not usually very fast on our projects, so we're gonna work hard. We're gonna do it. If you'd like to watch the compilation of all the different kittings on our farm so you can see all the first beginnings of all the baby goats, you can go ahead and click here.